For some time, astronomers and space researchers had been carefully monitoring an unusual visitor known as 3I Atlas. It was the third celestial object from beyond our solar system to arrive after the famous appearances of Oumuamua and Borisov. Scientists traced its path as it approached, fascinated by the strange green trail it left behind, and curious about its odd behavior as it drifted closer to the sun. The general consensus among experts was that Atlas was nothing more than a mysterious interstellar traveler, a cosmic wanderer passing through without any deeper significance. But everything changed in the early hours of September 19th, precisely at 2 a.m. UTC. On that night, an amateur astronomer in Chile captured a set of images that would spark a scientific upheaval. In these pictures, there appeared 9 faint glowing dots near 3I Atlas. These lights weren't random stars or background objects. They were moving alongside Atlas as if accompanying it, like a swarm of fireflies encircling a lantern drifting through the dark. What began as a casual observation quickly became a global sensation as major observatories, including the James Webb Space Telescope, the Hubble Space Telescope, and the massive Very Large Telescope, independently confirmed the same astonishing discovery. 3I Atlas, it turned out, was not journeying alone. It was part of a larger formation. 10 distinct companions were traveling in unison, all radiating the same otherworldly greenish glow. The revelation stunned the scientific community. These weren't mere fragments or debris. They appeared to be coordinated objects, perhaps even connected by a shared origin or purpose. The implications were profound, hinting at possibilities far beyond what anyone had anticipated. Suddenly, the story of Atlas was no longer about a solitary interstellar visitor. It was about a mysterious cluster of entities entering our solar system together. At first, many astronomers resisted the conclusion. They argued that the images might have been the result of faulty instruments, sensor glitches, or the kind of data noise that occurs when cameras are overwhelmed by cosmic radiation. Such errors were not uncommon in deep space imaging, and skepticism remained strong in the early hours after the discovery. Yet, as more observations poured in and the evidence continued to build, denial became impossible. The faint lights were real, they were moving with Atlas, and their synchronized behavior hinted at something far more complex than a random collection of space rocks. What scientists would eventually uncover about these enigmatic companions would push the boundaries of astronomy itself. It would challenge humanity's assumptions about what drifts between the stars, and raise new questions about who or what might be watching us from the depths of interstellar space. The unmatched sensitivity of the James Webb Telescope's advanced instruments, combined with Hubble's unparalleled precision, soon erased any remaining doubt about what astronomers were seeing. The lights weren't tricks of the lens or errors in the data. They were real, solid objects. 9 smaller bodies were gliding beside 3I Atlas, perfectly matching its trajectory and velocity, and each one glowed with the same mysterious green radiance. When scientists ran compositional analyses, they discovered something even stranger. These companions weren't fragments that had splintered off from Atlas itself. Instead, they were entirely separate entities, but with a strikingly similar chemical makeup, rich in metals like nickel and cobalt, along with a range of rare elements that are almost never present in natural comets. The deeper researchers looked, the more unsettling the discoveries became. Early observations of Atlas had already perplexed scientists, as its thermal readings suggested it was somehow generating power on a scale no natural object should, roughly 10 gigawatts, an immense amount of energy for something drifting through space. Yet the 9 accompanying objects made that seem insignificant. Each of them appeared to be radiating nearly twice that amount, an astonishing 20 gigawatts apiece, despite their compact size. None larger than a cluster of city blocks. To grasp the scale of this anomaly, one must understand that such energy could power entire nations, and here it was, confined within small, cold bodies of rock and ice floating silently between the stars. Nothing like this occurs in nature. No known cosmic process can create small, solid objects that behave as though they contain internal reactors. And if that was the case, if these things were not formed by chance, but instead constructed, then humanity was no longer dealing with a random piece of interstellar debris. They could be probes, devices built with purpose, perhaps even by a distant intelligence sent across the void. The idea was staggering, but the evidence was difficult to ignore. The most disquieting part of this mystery wasn't just their baffling power output, it was their sudden appearance. For weeks leading up to the discovery, astronomers, both amateur and professional, had been meticulously tracking 3I Atlas. Every telescope on Earth and in orbit had been turned toward it, watching, collecting data, studying its every every move. And yet, despite that intense scrutiny, these powerful companions had seemed to materialize out of nowhere, slipping into view as if they had only just arrived, or perhaps as if they had been deliberately waiting to be noticed. NASA's Juno spacecraft, the Parker Solar Probe, and several missions bound for Mercury and beyond were all actively collecting data, yet none of them detected these mysterious objects as they arrived. According to Harvard's A Vibe, the 9 companions didn't emerge gradually. They appeared almost instantly, faster than a blink or a camera flash. Our instruments simply weren't quick enough to capture the exact moment they showed up. To astronomers, it was as if the sky itself had shifted in an instant. One moment there was only 3i Atlas, and the next, there were many. This sudden appearance led to countless theories. Perhaps Atlas had released them like tiny probes when it entered the inner solar system. Maybe they had been dormant, activated by the sun's gravity or radiation, or possibly they had been lurking elsewhere, waiting for the right time to reveal themselves. Whatever the explanation, their presence was no accident. It was deliberate. When scientists tried to create computer models to explain the immense energy produced by the objects traveling with Atlas, the results didn't make sense, no matter how they adjusted the variables. Temperature, density, atomic interactions, or any other factor, the equations refused to balance. There was no known way to generate that much power from something so small without involving technology beyond our comprehension. Researchers even explored exotic possibilities like advanced containment methods, antimatter-driven reactions, and processes involving dark matter, because conventional physics couldn't explain what they were seeing. Each of the 9 objects seemed hotter, denser, and more energetic than the main body, as if they were designed to approach targets closely, while the larger vessel, Atlas itself, remained at a safer distance. These objects were far more than simple companions. They were powerful, dominant entities carrying levels of energy beyond anything humanity could comprehend. Their discovery stunned the scientific community, suggesting intention rather than coincidence. Something, nor someone, had placed them there, equipped them with extraordinary power, and directed their movements. As images spread online, people questioned why they had learned of this from an amateur astronomer with a basic telescope, instead of the most advanced observatories on Earth. NASA and the European Space Agency released only vague statements, acknowledging they were monitoring the situation but refusing to release the original data. Behind the scenes, leaked reports revealed that urgent high-level meetings were taking place at the Pentagon, the ESA, and China's space agency. Officials discussed contingency plans, including how to intercept the objects or defend the planet if necessary. Private space companies were quietly contacted about the possibility of rapid launches, and old European asteroid defense strategies were reviewed. Yet none of this was shared with the public. No warnings or explanations were issued, only calm reassurances that there was no immediate danger. That silence spoke volumes. If 9 powerful objects really had arrived alongside 3i Atlas, each producing more energy than entire nations, then the truth was far too enormous to conceal, and the world's governments clearly knew it. When Avi Loeb from Harvard analyzed the sudden appearance of the 9 objects, he proposed a theory that unsettled many astronomers: the mothership concept. He suggested that 3i Atlas might not be a solitary traveler at all, but rather a large carrier vessel from another star system, releasing smaller probes as it approached its destination, our solar system. These smaller crafts weren't random debris. They appeared to be deliberate scouts, sent to venture closer to planets, while the larger vessel remained at a distance. If this theory was correct, it would explain why the smaller objects emitted more power, moved together in coordinated formation, and appeared simultaneously. This implied they weren't drifting aimlessly. They had a purpose. Were they mapping planets, searching for resources, or simply observing us as the only intelligent species they encountered? Loeb was convinced of one thing: technology this advanced doesn't appear by accident. Such probes show up only when someone intends for them to be noticed. Not everyone agreed with him, however. Some scientists proposed that Atlas might have collided with a massive space rock, breaking apart into fragments that continued traveling along the same path at the same speed. While that idea could theoretically explain why the 9 objects were moving together, the evidence quickly dismissed it. Debris from collisions doesn't behave like powered craft. It doesn't emit 20 gigawatts of energy each, and it certainly doesn't doesn't all glow with the same bright green light or share the same rare metallic composition as the original object. Their movements were far too precise, their coordination too perfect. Even skeptics were forced to admit that these objects behaved nothing like shattered fragments of a comet and far more like deliberately engineered machines. The simple explanation couldn't hold up against the evidence, leaving only one conclusion: that they had been constructed, a possibility most scientists were hesitant to acknowledge. As if the presence of the 9 objects wasn't strange enough, the situation became even more extraordinary. From deep space, another interstellar visitor, C2025R2, known as SW, was approaching. SW was significantly larger and brighter than Atlas, with a tail so vast it dwarfed the apparent size of the moon in our sky, and it was set to pass closest to the sun at nearly the same time as Atlas. This meant that 2 massive objects from beyond our solar system, along with a cluster of mysterious companions, were all converging on the same region of space within the same week in October. Many people believed this couldn't be a coincidence. Some speculated that SW might be arriving to protect Earth, intercepting Atlas and its companions before they could carry out their mission. Others thought the opposite, that both were working together, gathering near the sun to exchange energy, information, or even materials. Historians also pointed out that records of strange green comets dated back thousands of years, appearing roughly every 2,200 years. If those records were accurate, humanity had encountered such phenomena before and survived, though survival this time was far from guaranteed. While the public speculated, governments scrambled behind the scenes. Classified reports revealed emergency meetings at the Pentagon, the European Space Agency, and China's National Space Agency. Early contingency plans ranged from deploying surveillance satellites to preparing planetary defense strategies. China was even said to have diverted funds from its Long March 9 rocket project to develop a rapid response missile capable of intercepting the comet. The European Space Agency revisited old plans from its cancelled Doniot asteroid defense project, while private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin were quietly approached about the possibility of rapid rocket launches. NASA refused to release the raw data from the Webb telescope. ISA offered no comment at all, and the White House issued only a brief statement: "We know what's happening and are watching it." This lack of transparency only fueled public concern. When 9 powerful objects suddenly appeared, each emitting unimaginable energy, and the world's leading agencies chose secrecy over clarity, many began to suspect the situation was far more serious than anyone was admitting. The most unsettling question of all was how these objects had come into existence in the first place. Harvard's analysis revealed that the 9 objects appeared in just a millisecond, far faster than any known natural process. To put that into perspective, a human blink takes about 300 milliseconds, and a camera flash lasts around 5. These objects manifested 30,000 times faster than a blink and 100 times faster than a flash. For scientists, this was undeniable evidence that their appearance wasn't random. They had been deployed with precise timing and incredible accuracy. Natural events in space simply don't behave like this. Comets fragment slowly over hours or even days, and asteroids break apart from collisions, scattering dust and debris in all directions. But 9 evenly spaced objects, each extremely powerful, appearing in perfect formation alongside their parent body in less than a millisecond, that defies natural explanation. It strongly points to technology. This led to intense speculation about their purpose. If these were probes, they might have been designed to scatter throughout the solar system, acting as scouts to study planets, possibly even ours. It would be reasonable for Atlas to carry powerful energy sources if it were meant to remain far from planets. The smaller objects, however, seemed built to operate close to planetary atmospheres, magnetic fields, and surfaces. That capability raised deeper concerns among scientists. For something so small to generate 20 gigawatts of power was far more than necessary for simple observation. It hinted at potential weaponry. Could these be machines designed to harvest resources or extract energy from planets and moons? Or more troubling, could they be enforcement units, robotic police meant to neutralize threats before the larger vessel arrived? Since communication with them is impossible, no one knows their purpose, and that uncertainty is what makes them frightening. We won't know their intentions until they act, and by then, it could be too late to respond. Historians also entered the debate, pointing out that strange green comets have appeared roughly every 2,000 years throughout recorded history. Ancient Chinese texts describe a sky dragon in 200 BC. Babylonian records speak of a star that shattered, signaling major change. Medieval European writings tell of a green banner in the sky around the year 1000. If these accounts are accurate, what we're witnessing now might not be new at all. It could be part of a recurring event that has unfolded every 2,200 years, leaving behind fragments of memory recorded by our ancestors. If so, humanity may not be the first civilization to face this enigma. We may simply be the first generation with the technology to truly observe this phenomenon. And that might be the most unsettling part. It suggests humanity isn't experiencing a first encounter at all, but rather witnessing something that has repeated for millennia, long before civilization existed. While the public speculates and debates, preparations are quietly unfolding behind the scenes. Defense satellites are being recalibrated, surveillance systems are being upgraded, and confidential meetings between space agencies are becoming more frequent. Reports indicate that China is accelerating its long-delayed planetary defense initiative, while Europe is reviving plans for high-impact weapons. The United States has remained silent publicly, but signs point to special task forces being formed within NASA and the Pentagon to consider every possible response, from nuclear countermeasures to attempts at communication. The troubling reality is that time is running out. Atlas and its companions will make their closest pass by the sun in just a few weeks, leaving no opportunity to build new technology or mount a defense. If these objects pose a threat, we are already unprepared, and if they do not, the secrecy surrounding them raises another question. Why is so much being hidden? Perhaps the greatest fear isn't what they are, but how humanity might react if their existence were openly acknowledged. Not long after the 9 objects appeared, subtle but unusual changes began occurring throughout the solar system. Instruments tracking magnetic fields detected faint, rhythmic signals following the same trajectories as Atlas and its companions. Pulses repeating every 43 seconds like a heartbeat. Seismographs in Antarctica, South America, and Asia recorded low-level tremors unrelated to any known geological activity. Even animals seem to sense something. Migrating whales in the Pacific, flocks of birds across Europe, and even subterranean insects abruptly altered their routes, as if their internal navigation systems had been disrupted. These anomalies were not random. They coincided precisely with the movements of the mysterious objects. Some scientists began to suspect that Earth itself was being influenced, that its magnetic field was responding to something hidden within the ships. If this was mere coincidence, it was an almost impossible one. If not, then the 9 ships weren't just traveling through space. They were actively altering the solar system. Then something even more alarming was detected. Scientists monitoring radio signals intercepted a focused beam of energy emitted by one of the objects. It wasn't directed toward Earth, but toward the moon. The beam struck a precise location, an area known for its mysterious, dense regions beneath the lunar surface. These unusual patches have puzzled researchers for decades, hinting at buried structures or heavy materials that conventional geology can't explain. Now, for the first time, something was deliberately targeting them. The signal carried layers of intensity and directional shifts, forming patterns that, while not a language, resembled an encoded message. What if the moon isn't simply a lifeless satellite, but part of an ancient system, dormant until now? Could these 9 ships be activating something hidden beneath the surface? Something placed there long before humans ever existed? And if they are indeed probes, perhaps the moon was never truly meant to belong to us. Despite mounting evidence, global agencies remained silent. NASA refused to release unfiltered data from its instruments. The European Space Agency dodged every question. China offered no public statements, though there were signs of covert rocket launches. The US government admitted only that it was aware of the situation and monitoring it, and said nothing further. In the absence of official information, ordinary people turned to amateur astronomers sharing their findings online, piecing together what they could while authorities stayed quiet. Yet the silence itself revealed more than any statement. When 9 powerful objects suddenly appeared near an interstellar visitor, and the world's top space agencies chose secrecy over transparency, it did nothing to reassure the public, and everything to deepen their fears. Instead, it made it clear that authorities knew more than they were willing to reveal. reveal. Finally, the patterns in space showed something too precise to dismiss. The 3 Atlas objects, their 9 smaller companions, and the massive Swander 2 body were all on course to converge in a small region near the sun by mid-October. Their closest approaches would occur within just a few days of one another, and they would pass less than 50 million kilometers apart. Such perfect timing is impossible for random natural events, but for something engineered, it appeared deliberate. Many scientists concluded this could only mean a rendezvous. Whether it was to collect resources, exchange data, or something more ominous, the synchronization was too exact to ignore, and with the sun blocking our view, the most critical moments would remain hidden from observation. It was as if the cosmos itself were concealing something, or as if the timing had been chosen specifically to keep the truth out of sight. Humanity has always looked to the skies and imagined stories, but now, telescopes both large and small are revealing reality instead of myths. 3i Atlas is no longer traveling alone. It is accompanied by 9 smaller objects, each unimaginably powerful, moving with careful precision and clearly placed with intent. In an instant, the number of interstellar visitors increased from 1 to 10. Discovery that changes everything. If these are probes or machines, they aren't simply drifting aimlessly. They have a mission, their coordinated paths, their targeted signals to the moon, and their strange interactions with Earth's magnetic field all point to a purpose we still don't understand. And with something 100 times larger, SWNR2, arriving in the same region at the same time, the silence of world leaders feels less like caution and more like deliberate concealment. And they understand that something extraordinary is happening. They know this isn't a coincidence, and instead of sharing the truth, they've chosen silence. We expected answers, yet what we received were questions far more unsettling than anything science has prepared us for. Are we witnessing a coordinated rendezvous of ships? A fleet following a plan set in motion long before humanity existed? Are these entities guardians, explorers, or harvesters? Could the moon be part of a larger network we never knew existed? The most unsettling thought is that they, not us, may decide when and how these questions are answered. The real fear isn't discovering something alien. It's the possibility that this fleet was always destined to arrive, that this has happened before, and that we are only now capable of noticing. What if we were never the watchers but the watched? What if our telescopes didn't uncover the mystery of 3i Atlas, but instead triggered the next phase of its mission? This is not fiction, it's reality. Right now, something deliberate is unfolding above us. 10 powerful objects are moving together with intent, crossing through our solar system. And as they draw closer, one question becomes impossible to ignore. Are they merely passing through, or are they coming for us?